everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney podcast. This is the podcast where once a month we talk about one of the films from the Disney animated classics canon, and the random number generator selects what we talk about each month. And this month we are talking about the classic, one of the Golden Age films. We're talking about Bambi, and I'm really, really excited to talk about Bambi. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, Rachel, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about Bambi too. What a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's really interesting because this is not one that I have a lot of nostalgia for. It's not one that we watched all that much growing up, but I feel like every time I watch it, I appreciate it more and more. And for some reason, I felt particularly drawn to it during this watch. I think I appreciated it more than I have ever appreciated it before. And and there was something kind of comforting about it. And I've always thought it was sort of strange that they made kind of such a sad movie in like a time of war and everything, that was something that drawn to him. But it was interesting because I felt like in such a troubling time as we're in now, there was something comforting about the film.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just in preparing for the podcast, I did some homework about the history of it. And, Walt Disney he was approached actually if I'm not mistaken, Rachel, 1933 by a film producer who had the rights to the book. Of course, I don't have the name of the film producer with me. I need to go. I'm sure it's probably in the Wikipedia site. But anyway, Felix Satin wrote the book. So Walt his intention was to have it be the second film after Snow White. And they realized, though, that it was just to make it right, it was really going to take time. So they almost had like the Skunk Works team that was not in the Hyperion studio. They moved them off site because the Hyperion studio was so crowded. And they decided to do Pinocchio and Fantasia. Those just came together more quickly rather than just this painstakingly meticulous work that they were doing on Bambi. And I think it really shows in the work of it. It was finally ready in 1942. And I'm with you. It doesn't seem like a great movie for the war, but I think part of it was it's because they had been working on it for so long. It's because it took so long to make.
Yeah, because they were working on it for 4 years at MGM and then turned it over to Disney, and then it took another 2 years, because it was originally going to be the second film after Snow White. And then it just kept getting delayed and problems. And there's a really interesting, if you have the signature DVD Blu-ray, there's an interesting meeting you can listen to it's like a planning meeting.
I listened to that in the past. Yes, I didn't listen to it this watch, but
which is I didn't either this time, but it's fascinating to hear Walt's voice and hear how he led and kind of how he would kind of come up with ideas and the way that you can just tell he was such an inspiring person to work around. Like it's the way that he would come up with sort of ideas and then it would go back and forth was really pretty incredible. It's really interesting. The part of the reason why there was such a delay was because Walt was so insistent on the animals being very lifelike.
Yeah.
And so all the animators had to work extra hard. Because they thought that it was going to release in 1939, and then it ended up being the fifth animated film in 1942. So it's pretty incredible. Also, the backgrounds are so incredible in this film.
Well, they are, and I'm sure you know this too. But what I was reading, Rachel, they were really kind of struggling with how to do it. Do they go with super realistic backgrounds, or what would the style would work, and what would work to really bring out the characters rather than to kind of hide the characters? And it was Tyrus Wong, the an artist there, came up with a more impressionistic style for the film, which really helped the production turn the corner, so that really works in it. And I don't know if you've seen some of his concept art is just spectacular. I went to an exhibit that was at the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. This was, I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but they had a Tyrus Wong exhibit, and they were showing some of his work as well as some of his work for Bambi. And it's just gorgeous, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And that's such a delight to, I think, in just watching the film too, just being able to appreciate that art.
Yeah. If you pause almost any frame in this film, it looks like a Monet.
It's so true.
It's just the way that the water, it's almost like a watercolor meshing together, and it's so beautiful.
If I may clarify a statement I made earlier, Rachel, Sidney Franklin was the name of the, he's an American film director and producer. Okay. He was the one who worked at MGM. Yeah. He's the one who had the rights to Bambi, and he's the one who approached Disney in the 30s about it. So, and he gets and there's a big credit. I mean, he gets a big title card. Yeah, cool. I noticed it. I had never really paid attention, in the title credits.
Because there's some real
opening credits.
There are some very realistic moments in the film, and the animals do look really good still to this day, I think. And then you have it mixed in with moments where the leaves almost look like feathers, and they look light and fluffy. And then you also have just the I don't think I've ever seen fire depicted with such purple in tones and black and the reds and of course the oranges, but the colors of the fire, I think, are some of the most beautiful.
Oh, they're beautiful. And all of the silhouettes that get used in not only in the fire scene, but in some of these other scenes, which I know we'll get to, that are almost abstract, but they're just gorgeous too. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, and they actually set up a whole school for the animators to learn about art and different areas of art.
Yeah, and anatomy, right? Animal anatomy and movement.
And because they had been taking courses and I forget what it's called, but they'd been taking courses off site. And so finally Walt just said, hey, we need to do this on site. So they literally started a school for the animators to come and work on. And so they were like the original Cal Arts.
I know, right? I read too, Rachel, you probably saw this. They actually had 2 deer. They had a male deer and a female one that they just they just kept at the studio. They named them Bambi and Phalene, which I thought was appropriate. and that's, they used a lot, for they had an actual model of a deer that they could go study, as well as I think I read too, they studied some footage from an old MGM nature film that had filmed a bunch of deer running, so they could get it right. It was so important, and I think clearly their homework made a difference.
Yes,
it really does.
I think so. It's just so beautiful and so cute at the same time.
Well, and it is exactly, and that's what I think what amazed me with this viewing as well, because I was really trying to focus on the movement of the deer, and how they're able to make the deer look so realistic, yet just so cartoony and adorable.
Yeah.
It is.
See, that was the problem amazing. With. I mean, it's good comparison with the newest Lion King, is that they were so concerned about making it realistic that they forgot to make it cute and appealing and have emotion.
Stripped it of all the emotion and all the artistry.
Yeah.
Because
That's
sure,
right.
It looked real, but did we feel like, I mean, all the animals just had like one emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. If I want real, I'll watch a nature documentary. I can see nature. I'll watch that.
Good point.
Yeah. The other standout I think about this film is the way that it uses the music.
I know, right?
You have Frank Churchill on this, and And I think that not only are the songs that they actually have are charming, but they use the score to actually be the sound effects of the
Mhm.
film, the sound sound mixing, I guess you might say, of the
Yes.
film. That, you know, especially in Drip Drip Drop, April Showers, literally it's drip drip drip, and that's the music, not a sound effect. And you know, and that was something that they did obviously in Fantasia, but they did it here because this was an original score. I think it was something a little bit different,
Yeah.
and I love that about it. I think it's masterful as far as the use of music.
Oh, I agree because I love all the songs, and then I was also just noticing just the score uh, emphasizes the action
Mhm.
or just accompanies the action so
So well.
perfectly. Yes, it really reminded me of Fantasia. Yeah, just like I felt
Yeah.
like a lot of ways I was watching Fantasia, which for me is a
Mhm.
good thing. You know, I
Yeah,
love it. But
I know. I don't know when the random number generator is going to finally land on Fantasia, but that's going to be a fun
I
one. I'm
know, I
really
know,
excited
I'm
about it.
excited.
uh, yeah. So, and this, before we dive into the plot, so yeah, this film, it's unfortunate because they worked so hard on it. It was such an achievement, and it just had such bad luck. When it was released, it was right in 1942, the thick of World War II, and Europe was basically closed off from movies at the time. So they lost like a huge part of their market at the time. And so it was, because it had had so many delays and so many problems, it was a big flop, which is such a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. It was interesting to read about that too, because you know the Walt Disney Company has had its share of ups and downs, you know, and it's interesting to see right now they're going through a really challenging time too, thanks to COVID, and uh, you know they're able to persevere and survive, which is encouraging. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree with you. Really, really too bad that flop. So they had, you know, kind of three flops in a row, right? I mean, or three, because
Yeah.
both Pinocchio and Fantasia underperformed too, and then this didn't do that great. How did
Yeah.
you know? I don't know much about the box office for Dumbo. I know Dumbo got overshadowed by Pearl Harbor, but the
I
Pearl
think it
Harbor
was,
attack,
if I'm not mistaken, because it was so cheap, I think it
yeah,
did make a profit, but I don't think enough to compensate for the loss of those
yeah.
three
So
films.
that was really, um, really too bad. And happy though to realize that it made up for it later in its life. You know,
Yeah.
as Disney re-released these films, and I think people came to just appreciate just the masterful artistry of them. You know,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
true. So the movie starts out with Love is a Song That Never Ends. And I do think this arrangement is a little dated, but I still think it is a very, very beautiful song.
Oh, I love the song, and I just love that opening tracking shot.
Yeah.
You know that I almost wanted to time it because I mean it just seems to go on and on. And I don't I mean I never want it to end.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and all the layers of the animation,
Hmm.
and if I'm not mistaken, they actually used some of those opening shots when they do the beginning of Beauty and the Beast,
Oh,
with
that'd be
the,
interesting.
yeah, with
Yeah, it
you know,
makes
as they
sense.
zoom. And I
Yeah,
remember that in audio commentary, because it's so beautiful, and it really definitely gets you the feeling of you're about to have a special experience, and
hmm,
you are diving into the forest, and just the layers and layers and layers that are there is incredible.
yeah,
It's the most layered animation, uh, with maybe the exception of Sleeping Beauty, is the only one I can think of that could,
hmm,
you could have that question about.
yeah.
It's just incredible. And so yeah, I loved that as well. And you get to see Owl speaking first, the owl,
Friend Owl.
Red
Yeah.
Owl. And this is one of the first of a long line of Disney owls. One of, I mean, there may have been an owl in Snow White, but But one of the very first articles, this is certainly the first owl with vocals.
Yeah.
One of the very first articles I did for rotoscopers.com was the history of Disney owls.
Oh, nice. Do you have a particular affinity for owls, Rachel, or is that just
because for a long time there would be a random owl, even something like Hercules, there was an owl, and in almost every Disney film. And so I was trying to think of something sort of creative that they might like and want me to be a writer for them. And so that's what I came up with, was the history of Disney owls. And I went through, it hasn't been for a while, but it used to be a thing, and it was in all the movies. So anyway, that's kind of funny. But yeah, the owl, and then you see Thumper, and could go see the new prince.
When I refer to them as the forest friends, it's like in Snow White when they show up. Forget about it. I just love them so much, because they are so adorable.
They're so cute.
Again, drawn with some more realism in Bambi, but still cartoony, and I mean that as a compliment.
Me too.
So charming. So just adorable.
And little Bambi is so cute.
Oh my gosh,
baby Bambi, adorable.
Yeah. That whole sequence is so great. And as a kid, you had mentioned you don't necessarily have an affinity for this film from childhood. Neither do I, because I saw it. I can't remember the specifics on it. It was probably with a re-release. It's one of those that is so cute until it's not, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But as an adult, and after you go through challenges of life, I think it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And just becomes just more of this beautiful treatise rather than this thing that gives you nightmares.
Right. It's just so cute. And Thumper saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Thumper and little flower. So cute.
And just Bambi growing up is so sweet and very cute. And you have all the little scenes, like you're saying, with his friends in the forest and them learning about echoes. I love that little scene where they hear the echo in the log. And you can see Bambi's face. It's so cute. Also, you get the pretty iconic scene of Bambi chasing the butterfly on his nose. That's when you see
that's like the iconic kind of Bambi. Yeah.
And his first word is bird. Yeah.
Bird. So cute.
Yeah. And we learn about, in a very important scene, about the fear of the meadow. I thought that they do a great job with the foreshadowing and establishing tone, and just everything's been so light and fluffy up until then, and then there's just this very different tone about the meadow.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's so masterfully done, isn't it? From a storytelling standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, the lighting, particularly those opening shots when they go to the meadow and Bambi's mom is teaching him about it. And then it lights up some, and the lighting changes. The colors change and whatnot. But
yeah. So I think that Thumper's father must be like hilarious, because he evidently teaches all of his children in rhymes.
Yes, I know. I want to meet Thumper's father. It's so great. I just love that. What did your father teach you or tell you?
Eating greens is a special treat. It makes long ears and great big feet. But it's awful stuff to eat.
Yeah. And then his little add-on. So great.
So
the animation
really
of Thumper is perfection.
So cute. Yeah. And I really like, there's 3 different voices that voice Thumper. There's young adolescent and young adult Thumper.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought there were 4 voices who did Bambi.
Yes, that's
Did
correct.
you? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And also just a quick note about Thumper I read too, Rachel, is that both Thumper and Flower were add-ons. They were not in the from this. I've never read the book,
Uh-huh.
the Bambi book, but they were added on by the story department. I think they were trying to figure out what was going to work as comic relief,
Yeah.
and clearly they aced it.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job
with it. Yeah.
And so then Bambi meets Phalene, and I think that scene is really great, and the animation is really great in that scene. The backgrounds and the animation is really good there. We also I skipped over. We get drip drip drop, little April showers, and I think that that is the best song of the film. Love is a song that never ends is the one that was nominated, and I understand why, but I think actually drip drip drip, April showers, whatever it's called, I think that's the best song of the movie. Personally,
It's a cute song. I really like Love is a Song too. Love is a Song, believe it or not, it's in the repertoire of the Tabernacle Choir. We sing it
oh yeah,
pretty often, and
yeah,
I'm always happy when that's in my folder.
yeah.
Love is a Song, because it's a beautiful arrangement that the Tabernacle
Oh
Choir
yeah,
does of it too.
it's a
But I'm
beautiful
with you.
song. I just
Drip Drip Drop is so unbelievably charming, and the vocal arrangements are perfection.
Well, the choir sung that too. I know, I've heard it. Drip drip
I
drop.
wouldn't be surprised. I haven't sung it personally, but yeah, fun. What a fun
Yeah,
song.
I just love the way that the music sounds like raindrops.
I
I think
know,
that's
it's
so
just
great.
as you mentioned, that it's the music that's providing the soundtrack, rather I mean, rather than
Mhm.
like a Foley artist or something right there. It's the music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so then they on the meadow, and just I loved like I said, the music on the meadow, and then we meet Bambi's father, and he
that's
is a
right.
prince
For the Prince of the
of
Forest.
the forest. And I think this is a part of this movie that doesn't age particularly well. Just the whole idea, not to be too cringy, but the whole idea of patriarchy and everything is just something that's just not kind of a part of our culture and now these days. And the idea of sort of this stoic father who just kind of looks and protects the family, and that's just not something that really resonates with today, I don't think, very well. And I think if they do a live action Bambi, which they shouldn't, but if they do, I think they have to change that.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely of the time period, but also I guess I do like it in that it sets up what happens later.
But I kind of don't really like the fact that, oh, at the end of the movie, Bambi has basically turned into this kind of stoic leader. There's not, like, if you compare Bambi's father to, say, Mufasa, like a more modern depiction of fatherhood that's loving and teaching lessons. And
Nurturing.
yeah, I mean, that's just a different kind of fatherhood than you would see in the 1930s and 40s. It's just a different era. And we just don't have that idea of sort of this patriarchal father the way that they would have then. So, it's just a creature of time. It's just different types of expectations and changing and things. And so it's kind of like, I don't want Bambi to turn into that. You're so nice. I don't want him to turn into that, overseer who's all aloof and whatever.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I view this as such a coming of age film, and for me, I guess I take it more symbolically, man, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
That when as Bambi processes through that, and again, as what happens at the end, which we'll talk about. I know, but
I mean, I'm
that's
not
more
offended
like
by it.
absolutely.
It's just a
saying
change.
that's why
it's just a change and a different idea of kind of what a father does. I mean, now it would seem bizarre to have a father not with his wife giving, she's giving birth and supporting, and like in this day and age, but that would have seemed bizarre back then, for the father to have been in the room.
All the father does, all the Prince of the Forest does is look at little baby Bambi.
Yeah.
Just kind of sternly, but interested. But
Yeah,
you don't
it's
really
just
know. And Bambi doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. It's just a different time period. But yeah, I kind of always am like, I want him to be nice and not be like his dad. But they do say the reason why is because he has lived. This is not one deer has lived half so long, and that everyone respects him. And he
Hmm.
does save Bambi's life,
Yeah.
so he does care. And
Yeah.
but anyway, there is the whole scare on the meadow when it's getting pretty close to his mother getting killed. And so that's another foreshadowing.
Yeah. The foreshadowing that they get out of there just in time as the hunters have arrived.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But she survives. And so then we get into the whole snow section, which is so cute. This is
Oh,
one of my favorite
yeah.
parts.
Bambi on Thumper on the ice. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What? There's nothing cuter than that.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, them ice skating is so cute. You find out the flower is hibernating, and we didn't really talk about him meeting Flower, but that's pretty cute. For some reason, I used to think that Flower was a girl. I was like, it was a girl. I don't know why.
Nope.
Uh,
Flowers and boys. That's what I say. He can call me Flower if he wants to.
yeah.
Okay.
And we get the spring song. I know that's probably not its official title, but that's what I written down.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're skating. It's super cute. And then they see Flowers hibernating. And then we're back on the meadow. And that's when all of childhood was traumatized.
I know every child.
Faster, Bambi. Don't look back.
I
Keep running.
know.
Oh my goodness.
And that is the most intense scene. I mean, honestly, I think you could ask anybody who saw this film as a child, and it just
Yeah.
when Bambi's mom dies is really a traumatic thing. I mean, because it's like the child's worst fear,
Mhm.
but so masterfully done, don't you think? I mean, as far as
Oh yeah.
they don't show any gore, and they don't. It's all just done, just with great editing and with the tension of it, and then when it's and the snow, I think is so powerful as Bambi's calling for his for his mom. I mean,
Yeah.
it's devastating, but as an adult, I think I just appreciate so much. It's not only its artistry, but also just, I mean, this is just one of the changes Bambi's got to go through.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, in 1942, almost every single family was affected by war, people
Hmm.
dying. So how like helpful for Disney to put out a somewhat traumatic experience to kind of give a catalyst or a jumping off point for families to talk about death and talk about
Yeah.
loss. And I think that that's something Disney has been great at doing over the years,
Hmm.
is helping parents to talk about important issues with
Yeah.
their children. And he always, I mean, Walt always felt like his movies weren't for children, that he made movies that appealed to everybody. He wasn't trying necessarily to make something that was just for kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I appreciate. But yeah, I mean, I think that is why I didn't love this movie growing up. Not that I had any animosity towards it, but it was just, I definitely had sort of that stamp of that's a sad movie when I was little.
You're right. Exactly. That's
Mhm.
perfectly said. Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is very, very shocking. And I always I think of, I love the show The Nanny, and there's a really funny joke in there that Fran is talking to Cece, who's kind of the cold businesswoman that works with Maxwell, and she says, when they shot Bambi's mother, did you find that a sad moment at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and when again, for me, it works when the dad shows up. I just love how it's striking, but also it's also like, okay, the way, and I think again just the master way they animate it. The
Mhm.
Bambi's crying, but the dad's just like, Mr. Stoicism, right? But he's like, you can't be with your mother anymore, whatever the quote is, and and then they go off. And so, but like, it's just like, Bambi's on a new chapter, even though it's super tragic. But it's
well, in Bambi's mother dying has been a bit controversial in the world of hunting and wildlife, because you think, oh, they would really love it, but actually, I remember going in Maryland growing up. I remember going to the park rangers and them saying that there was a Bambi problem, because there was overpopulation of deer,
yeah,
that they actually, you kind of need that. They said that, I remember them saying that that when you have them going really low, you can tell that they're hungry and there's not enough for them. And so when you see them on obviously on freeways and stuff like that, that's not where they want to be. That's not where they should be. But that was interesting. And evidently, Walt's daughter Diane was very upset about Bambi's mother. Yeah, and Walt, I guess he said, he's like, I was only following the book. Don't get mad at me.
I was gonna say, well, and what I love that, Rachel, that's so perfect. What I had read too is that this book is, that man is even more present in the book, and there's a lot more. I don't know if it's necessarily more grisly or more dramatic, but it just sounds like they're going full circle of life, in this book.
The only part about this whole thing that I fault the movie on is that they never talk about her again, ever. She's killed, and then that's it. And I guess that they, like, nature does move on in a way, but these are characters and we've grown to love them.
That's
and
a
so
good point.
I would have loved for them to have, maybe at the end when he has his own children, that maybe him to say something about his mother there, or something about Phalene maybe and his mother, or because it just kind of feels like, well, she's gone.
Right.
Moving on.
And they don't talk about her. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and then so we're back in spring, and the owl hates the spring. And this is sort of the Twitter pated part, and
your favorite.
We get the Insta love.
So I was thinking, I was like, this is Rachel's favorite thing, not.
Yeah. And we also have Bambi fighting off the other
Phalene's got this other suitor who's aggressive,
right?
And I understand with you about on the whole instant Twitter pated thing. The one thing at least I feel about with Bambi and Phalene is that they knew each other a little bit when they were kids.
Yeah.
And they seem to have a little bit more, even though Bambi's instantly in love, they still have a little bit more time together, and Bambi also fights for her.
Yeah.
And that fight scene, I think, is really cool.
It is.
Those silhouettes and that kind of rim lighting that's done around the deer, and again, using music so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really unique because it turns into basically shadows of them fighting, and with the green and the blue and the black. It looks really striking. Cool. Yeah, I agree. And also, I mean, they're obviously trying to show the cycle of nature, as opposed to some of these other times when it's done, where like in Jungle Book, where it's like, why is he hypnotized? Come on. I don't like that whole thing, but it's a little more understandable because you're talking about animals and animals mate, and whatever.
Right.
But then you have I Bring You a Song, and I think this is an underrated song as far as Disney songs.
Too. Yeah, I agree. I think it's underrated.
I think it's really good.
It's beautiful, and again, beautiful arrangement, and the animation's so gorgeous too. And I mean, I'm just a broken record. This movie.
And so his dad says, "It is man. He's here again. There are many this time." So that's foreboding. And Bambi goes to rescue Phalene. That's when you get
all those dogs and all this stuff's going on.
Yeah. And you get the like truly traumatic scene with I don't know what kind of bird that is. That like a quail or a pheasant or
where she's freaking out, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
just like, I can't stand it any longer. You're like, oh my God.
Don't do it. Yeah.
This is trauma.
Yeah.
And there's all the dogs. Yeah, that Phalene gets trapped by the dogs. And there's just a real different sense to the animation of the dogs, I think, compared to the other other animated animals.
Yeah, they're not cute.
No, they're not cute, and
they're just vicious.
Yeah, they're kind of like a swarm too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have Bambi. He gets sort of shot. And then through the forest, the fire starts, and that's when we get the reds and the purples and the oranges, and his dad says, get up, Bambi.
Yeah, what's your take on that, Rach?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I think you need that moment where it's like that his father, does care for him, and it was a pretty exciting moment.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I like it because, again, I just think it's just part of this wonderful coming of age story as I interpret the film, and I think, I mean, it's where Bambi learns to become an adult, and it takes his father, who is being rather stern, but he's just, it's what I think I felt is what Bambi as a character needed, have that. And I mean, heaven knows I need it too at times, just as a person.
Yeah.
You just need somebody to say, no, you can do this, get up and do it.
Yeah.
And
especially in intense moments like that, that's when leadership really makes a difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and I like it. It's really the one moment. I mean, that sequence is really the one time we get to see Bambi with his dad.
Yeah.
Even though they're just trying to escape the fire, but still, I just like it that they're having a moment together.
Yeah, I think so. And then it ends with spring and all the little ones, and you get to see Thumper's little ones, and Bambi and Phalene have 2 fawns. So that's pretty exciting.
It's really great, and it's wonderful because it's almost like a mirror of the opening sequence,
Mm-hmm.
And again, it made me think of how the Lion King did it too, which I think, again, is kind of similar in its own way, and they're kind of have the bookends of the film are similar in that regard. But I know it's so fun that there are two little cute little baby deer, and then Bambi takes over the role as the prince as the prince. I don't know where the dad goes, but
maybe he retires.
That's wondering, is he going to retirement acres? Or he's gonna go, have another life somewhere else. Who knows? But he can go travel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's gonna go off to see the world.
But I like it too how Phalene comes and joins him in the scene as well.
Yeah,
that's
true.
A little different from.
So where do you have Bambi in your ranking?
So let me pull that up. I've got Bambi at number 14. I have Dumbo at 13 and Mulan at 15. I really love Bambi a lot.
I had it last time at 24, and I had Emperor's New Groove at 25 and Jungle Book at 23. But I think I'd bump it up a little bit this time. I really did enjoy watching it. I think I was just right in the mood.
Yeah, I think it's just a masterpiece, and just as you said too. So, well, I appreciate it more every time I watch it as an adult.
And I think really I have the rankings are so hard because I really think I have about 30 of the Disney films that I want to put in my top 10. But I've got 30 of them. So what am I going to do? And so it's tough.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. So let's do the random number generator.
All right.
Okay. So here we go. And we get Zootopia.
Hey, fun.
Yes, this is I think our last Disney Disney revival film. We will have done because we've yet to finish an era where we have
The random number generator is really
and now we will have done every single film from Frozen 2 all the way through. We haven't done Chicken Little yet, but we've done everything else.
I'm dreading that. That'll probably be our last one, right? Oh.
So we will do Zootopia next month. That'll be so fun.
I'm
excited. I'm very excited. So, okay, great. Well, let's check out. We only had a couple responses on the Twitter, but I will read them. One of the responses was just crying eyes. We have that's from Serious Chick. From Matthew D. Klein, he says, while Disney films like The Lion King had a little bit better writing than films like Bambi, Bambi is yet another film that I've come to appreciate more as an adult. Also, I liked the songs, particularly songs like Love is a Song and Little April Showers. That's what it's called, not Drip Drip Drop.
Oh, I like Drip Drip Drop.
Arcs Cafe TX, he says, too many people mistake Bambi as a cutesy baby movie because they concentrate on the early part when the characters are young. It's a darker film than it's given credit for, which I think is true. And Kevin, the critic, he says, not the biggest fan of it. The animation is pretty. So Christian Paystrup, he says, one of my favorites ever. That is thoughts on Bambi. So make sure you're following us at Disney Talking on Twitter, and because we try to get your feedback. So we'll be very excited to talk about Zootopia next month. So let us know your thoughts on what we talked about with Bambi. Thanks so much. Make sure that, like I said, you're following us on Twitter at Disney Talking. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find this podcast at Talking Disney Classics all over on iTunes and wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can find it on YouTube at Rachel's Reviews. So check that out. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. I'm going to have tons of reviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. And also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast. We're starting our Christmas coverage. It's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. We have our patron group, which is so appreciated right now, especially. And also we have our merch store, which has #AnimationJunkie shirts, which are really fun. So please take a look at that. All the information will be in the description. So thanks so much, Stanford, and we'll talk on next month. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.